There are battles you never saw. There are conversations in the spirit realm your ears were never meant to hear. And tonight, heaven wants you to know something powerful. God is not silent about what they did to you. You cried in secret. You carried betrayal in your chest like a storm no one could calm. People lied on your name. They misunderstood your heart. They judged your silence as weakness. They mocked your calling because they could not understand your anointing. But hear this prophetic truth. While they were speaking against you on earth, God was defending you in heaven. The Lord says, I have seen every tear you tried to hide. I heard every whisper spoken against you. I watched those who smiled in your face, while secretly plotting your downfall. And now my anger is rising against every force that tried to destroy what I chose. Chosen one, you were never abandoned. You were being protected. Sometimes God will allow isolation because He is separating you from environments that cannot carry your destiny. Sometimes He will allow rejection because the room you begged to stay in was too small for the purpose He placed over your life. You thought people were ignoring you. But heaven was repositioning you. Listen carefully. The enemy attacked your reputation because they could not attack your purpose. They tried to stain your image because they were intimidated by your future. There is something on your life that disturbs darkness. Why? Because you carry light, because you carry wisdom, because your presence exposes fake hearts, because your spirit cannot bow to manipulation. And God says, do not fight every battle with your hands. Some battles belong to me. Vengeance is mine. I will confront those who tried to curse what I have blessed. This is why confusion suddenly entered the camp of your enemies. This is why hidden truths are being exposed. This is why people who betrayed you are now battling the consequences of their own actions. God is not mocked. The same people who doubted your journey will witness your elevation. The same voices that tried to shame you will become silent when God restores your honor publicly. Chosen one, hear this deeply. You are entering a season where heaven will clear your name, out through arguments, not through revenge, but through undeniable favor. God is about to bless you so loudly that your result, will speak for you. The doors opening in your life will confuse people who tried to block you. The peace on your face will confuse people who expected you to break. The strength in your spirit will confuse people who thought the attack would destroy you, but you survived because God kept you. There were moments you almost gave up. Moments you questioned your worth. Moments you sat alone asking, Lord, why is this happening to me? And God says, because your life carries purpose, and purpose attracts warfare. But I never called you to be defeated. I called you to overcome. Do not apologize for your growth. Do not shrink yourself to make insecure people comfortable. Do not dim your light because others fear your power. You were chosen before the foundation of the world. Every attack was proof that your destiny is real. Every betrayal was evidence that your spirit carries something rare. Every delay was preparation for an arrival bigger than you imagined. And now heaven is announcing a shift. The suffering will not last forever. The loneliness will not last forever. The misunderstanding will not last forever. God is stepping into the situation. He is defending your heart. Right. Defending your future. Defending your calling. Defending your name. The Lord says, I will make your enemies witness the table I prepare for you. I will restore what pain tried to steal. I will lift you in the very places where you were humiliated, and those who spoke against you will know that my hand is upon your life. Chosen one, stop doubting yourself. You are not crazy. You are not forgotten. You are not weak. You are under divine protection. And in this next season, people will finally understand why the enemy fought you so hard. Because your destiny is dangerous to darkness. So rise again, pray again, believe again, walk again. The story is not over. God is still writing your victory. There are moments in life when you begin to realize that the pain surrounding you is not ordinary. The rejection feels too targeted. The betrayal feels too personal. The attacks seem to come from every direction at once. People you once trusted suddenly turn cold. Doors that once opened easily begin shutting without explanation. Conversations change when you enter the room. Smiles become masks hiding envy, jealousy, and secret resentment. And deep inside your spirit, you begin to feel that something bigger is happening beyond what your eyes can see. Chosen one, the attack against your life did not begin the moment people started speaking against you. It began the moment heaven placed purpose inside of you. Before you ever achieved anything, before you ever understood your calling, before you ever recognized your spiritual strength, darkness already recognized the mark of God upon your life. There was something different about you from the beginning. You carried a presence that made people uncomfortable without even trying. You spoke differently. You thought differently. You felt things deeply. Even when you tried to fit in, your spirit could never fully connect with environments that were empty, fake, or spiritually dead. The enemy studies potential. That is why the warfare started early. Some of you were attacked in childhood. You experienced abandonment before you even understood love. You experienced rejection before you understood your value. Some were surrounded by constant criticism. Others were mocked for being sensitive, emotional, quiet, ambitious, or spiritually aware. The enemy wanted to wound your identity before you discovered who God created you to become. There were seasons where you questioned yourself constantly. You wondered why life seemed harder for you than for everyone else. You watched others move freely while you carried invisible burdens nobody understood. You kept asking God why the attacks never seemed to stop. Just when one storm ended, another one began. Just when you healed from one betrayal, another heartbreak appeared. Just when you started rebuilding your confidence, another voice tried to tear it down again. What you did not understand was that the enemy was never fighting the version of you that exists today. The enemy was fighting the future version of you. The enemy saw your potential long before you recognized it yourself. Darkness understood that if you ever fully awakened to your purpose, your strength, your authority, and your calling, you would become impossible to control. That is why confusion entered your relationships. The enemy will often send people into your life to drain your energy, distract your focus, and weaken your spirit. Some people were assigned to delay your destiny. They came disguised as friends, lovers, mentors, and supporters, but behind closed doors they carried hidden motives. They studied your weaknesses. They learned your fears. They listened to your dreams only to secretly compete with you. Some celebrated your failures in silence while pretending to care in public. Chosen one, not every battle in your life has been physical. Many of your battles have been spiritual. There are attacks that cannot be explained logically because they are rooted in spiritual warfare. You may have noticed strange patterns repeating throughout your life. Cycles of disappointment, cycles of betrayal, cycles of almost reaching success before something suddenly collapses. Cycles where people misunderstand your intentions no matter how pure your heart is. The enemy attacks patterns because patterns create exhaustion. Exhaustion creates doubt, and doubt weakens faith. There were nights when you cried alone because nobody understood the weight you carried. You smiled in front of people while secretly battling anxiety, fear, and emotional exhaustion. You tried to stay strong while your spirit felt wounded from constant disappointment. Sometimes you wanted to give up completely because the pressure became too heavy. The loneliness became too painful. The spiritual warfare became too intense. But even in your weakest moments, God kept you alive for a reason. There were situations that should have destroyed you, but somehow you survived. There were heartbreaks that should have completely shattered your mind, but somehow you kept moving forward. There were betrayals that should have turned your heart cold forever, but God refused to let darkness fully consume your spirit. The attack intensified because your destiny carries weight. Ordinary people do not attract extraordinary warfare. The enemy does not waste energy attacking people who pose no threat to darkness. The reason your life has been marked by unusual resistance is because your future carries unusual impact. You have to understand this deeply. Some people hated you without reason because the spirit inside them reacted to the spirit inside you. Your light exposed things they wanted hidden. Your authenticity disturbed people living behind masks. Your strength reminded insecure people of their weakness. Your presence challenged environments built on manipulation, dishonesty, and spiritual emptiness. That is why some people walked away from you suddenly. That is why some turned again, missed you after getting close to you. That is why certain relationships became toxic the moment you started growing spiritually. Growth will always expose who was assigned to your destiny and who was assigned to your distraction. Many chosen ones experience isolation because isolation becomes part of spiritual preparation. God will sometimes remove you from crowded environments to develop your discernment. When everybody leaves, you begin hearing heaven more clearly. When distractions disappear, your spiritual vision sharpens. What felt like abandonment was often divine separation. The enemy wanted isolation to break you. God used isolation to build you. There were moments you felt forgotten. You questioned why your prayers seemed delayed. You wondered why people who hurt others appeared to succeed while you struggled, despite trying to do what was right. You watched dishonest people prosper while your own life felt stuck in painful waiting seasons. But spiritual battles are not always visible immediately. Sometimes heaven is handling situations behind the scenes while you remain unaware. Sometimes God allows exposure to happen slowly because timing matters. Every lie spoken again, should you be recorded. Every hidden betrayal is seen. Every manipulation, every false accusation, every secret attack has already reached the ears of heaven. Chosen one, the attack on your life was never proof that God abandoned you. The attack was proof that your life carries significance in the spiritual realm. Darkness does not fear empty vessels. Darkness fears people who carry divine purpose. The enemy wanted you distracted by pain so you would never discover your authority, wanted you emotionally wounded so you would settle for less than what God promised, wanted you insecure so you would never walk boldly into your calling, wanted you exhausted so you would stop praying, stop believing, stop fighting, and stop trusting God altogether. But despite everything that tried to destroy you, you are still standing. Scarred, but standing. Wounded, but standing. Tired, but standing. Betrayed, but standing. Attacked, but still breathing. And the reason you survived every attempt to break you is because the hand of God remained over your life, even during seasons when you could not feel Him. There is a reason the enemy worked so hard to silence you. There is a reason confusion, rounded your path. There is a reason your battles felt heavier than those around you. Your existence threatens darkness because your future carries deliverance, wisdom, healing, and transformation that will impact lives far beyond what you currently understand. And every attack that was sent against your life only revealed how valuable your destiny truly is. There are wounds people never apologized for. There are betrayals that changed the way you looked at love, trust, and loyalty forever. Some of the deepest pain in your life did not come from strangers. It came from people you opened your heart to, people you prayed for, people you protected, people you trusted with your vulnerability. And what hurt the most was not just what they did, but the fact that they acted as though your pain meant nothing. Chosen one, there were moments when you felt completely unseen. You cried in silence because nobody understood the pressure you carried inside. People judged your reactions without understanding the battles happening within your spirit. They saw your exhaustion but called you weak. They saw your boundaries but called you distant. They saw your discernment but called you difficult. Nobody understood how many times you were forced to survive situations that should have broken you completely. But heaven saw everything. God saw every silent tear falling from your face late at night when nobody else was around. He saw the trembling in your spirit after every betrayal. He saw the moments you questioned your own worth because of how people treated you. He saw how hard you tried to keep peace even while carrying hidden pain in your chest. He saw the emotional battles you never spoke about because you were tired of explaining yourself to people who refused to understand. There were times when you wondered if God was listening at all. You prayed for answers. You prayed for justice. You prayed for relief from the constant emotional warfare surrounding your life. Sometimes the silence of heaven made you feel abandoned. You watched people lie on your name while God remained quiet. You watched unfairness happen repeatedly while your spirit cried out for intervention. What you did not realize was that God's silence was never absence. God was observing everything carefully. The Lord does not miss details. Every conversation spoken against you was heard. Every hidden motive was exposed before heaven long before it became visible to you. Some people smiled in your face while secretly resenting your existence. They envied your strength, your resilience, your wisdom, and the favor resting over your life. Even when you struggled, there was still something about your spirit that disturbed insecure people. Some individuals studied your weaknesses not to help you heal, but to use your wounds against you later. They gathered information about your pain while pretending to care. They learned your fears while secretly planning betrayal. They listened to your dreams while privately hoping you would fail. You gave loyalty to people who never deserved access to your heart, and God saw it all. Chosen one, there is something deeply painful about being misunderstood, especially when your intentions were pure. Some people built false narratives about you because they could not control you. Others projected their own darkness onto your character because your light exposed their hidden issues. There were moments where you defended yourself emotionally, trying desperately to make people understand your heart, only to realize they had already chosen their version of you. That kind of pain leaves scars. It creates emotional exhaustion. It creates trust issues. It creates fear of opening up again. Some of you became emotionally distant because too many people mishandled your heart. Some became quieter because speaking honestly only attracted criticism. Some stopped sharing dreams because every time you spoke about your future, somebody secretly competed with you instead of supporting you. Yet even during those painful moments, God continued watching over your life with deep attention. There are things heaven notices that human beings ignore. God notices when your heart remains kind despite betrayal. He notices when you choose not to become bitter after being wounded repeatedly. He notices when you continue loving people while secretly carrying your own pain. He notices your private battles, your hidden prayers, your silent endurance, and your effort to remain faithful while life feels unfair. Many chosen ones become tired because they constantly carry emotional burdens others cannot see. You became the strong one for everybody else while secretly needing strength yourself. People leaned on you emotionally while ignoring the fact that you were fighting your own internal wars. You gave encouragement while battling discouragement. You gave love while feeling emotionally drained. You gave loyalty while receiving betrayal in return. And still, God saw your heart. The enemy wanted you to believe your pain was invisible, wanted you to believe nobody cared about your suffering, wanted you to feel abandoned and forgotten. Because once a chosen one begins believing they are unloved, hopelessness begins entering the spirit. But God has never ignored your pain. Every time your heart broke, heaven took notice. Every time you sat alone replaying painful memories in your mind, heaven listened. Every time anxiety kept you awake at night, God remained near, even when you could not feel His presence. There were moments where your spirit was so exhausted you could barely pray, yet God still understood the language of your tears. Some betrayals were allowed to reveal people's true nature. Not everybody assigned themselves to your life was assigned by God. Certain individuals entered your journey carrying hidden agendas connected to envy, control, manipulation, or spiritual distraction. They were comfortable around the broken version, ion of you, but became uncomfortable once you started healing, growing, and recognizing your value. Growth exposes hidden intentions. The moment you stopped tolerating disrespect, certain people became angry. The moment you established boundaries, some accused you of changing. The moment you chose peace over drama, some labeled you selfish. They benefited from your emotional exhaustion because your weakness gave them power. But heaven never intended for you to remain trapped in environments that constantly drained your spirit. God saw the moments you were blamed unfairly, saw the lies spoken behind your back, saw the people who manipulated situations to damage your reputation, saw those who secretly celebrated your failures while pretending to support you publicly, saw every fake smile, every hidden jealousy, every secret competition directed toward your life. Nothing escapes the eyes of heaven. Chosen one, many times God allows painful exposure because truth cannot remain hidden forever. Some people reveal themselves slowly. God lets masks fall over time so you can clearly discern who truly belongs in your destiny. The pain of betrayal often becomes the doorway to spiritual awakening. Once your discernment sharpens, you begin recognizing energy differently. You stop chasing validation from people incapable of appreciating your heart. You also begin realizing that not every closed door was punishment. Some closed doors were protection. Some rejected relationships were divine intervention. Some painful endings prevented greater destruction from entering your future. What felt like loss was often God removing hidden danger from your path. Heaven understood things your emotions could not yet see. There were people you begged God to keep in your life who secretly carried the intention to destroy your confidence, delay your purpose, or weaken your spirit. God saw conversations you never heard, saw motives you never detected, saw spiritual dangers your heart was too innocent to recognize. And despite all the attacks, all the betrayals, all the misunderstandings, God continued protecting your destiny behind the scenes. Even when your faith weakened, He watched over you. Even when your prayers became silent, He watched over you. Even when disappointment filled your spirit and exhaustion consumed your mind, heaven remained aware of every detail connected to, your pain. Because chosen one, your suffering was never ignored by God, not for a single moment. There is a realm beyond human eyes where battles are being fought over your destiny every single day. Most people only see what happens on the surface. They see the betrayal, the rejection, the delays, the misunderstandings, and the attacks against your name. But what they cannot see is that while chaos unfolds on earth, heaven is responding in ways far greater than your natural mind can fully understand. Chosen one, there were moments when you believed you had nobody defending you. You watched people create false stories about your character while others listened without hearing your side. You watched individuals twist your kindness into weakness and your silence into guilt. Some people judged your pain without understanding the warfare attached to your life. Others spoke confidently about situations they never truly understood. And in those moments, your heart became heavy because you felt alone. But heaven was never silent concerning you. God has been defending your name in places you cannot see. While people were speaking against you publicly, heaven was speaking over you spiritually. Irritantly. While individuals tried to destroy your reputation, God was preserving your destiny. While others focused on attacking your image, heaven focused on protecting your purpose. There are conversations happening in the spiritual realm about your future. There are prayers you prayed years ago that heaven still remembers. There are promises spoken over your life that cannot be cancelled by human betrayal, jealousy, or manipulation. What God has declared over your existence carries more authority than the opinions of broken people. Some attacks against your life became so intense because darkness understood your value before you did. The enemy knew your future carried influence, healing, wisdom, and spiritual power. That is why confusion surrounded your relationships. That is why lies spread without reason. That is why certain people suddenly turned against you after getting close to you. The enemy often targets chosen ones through reputation attacks because reputation affects confidence. Confidence affects purpose, and purpose threatens darkness. There were moments you almost defended yourself aggressively, moments you wanted revenge, moments you wanted to expose every person on who betrayed you, lied about you, or secretly worked against you. Your emotions wanted justice immediately because your pain felt unbearable. But many times God restrained you because some battles are too spiritual to fight with human anger alone. The Lord says, "Be still. I saw what they did. I heard what they said. I know every hidden motive, every lie, every manipulation, and every secret attack." You do not need to destroy your peace trying to prove yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Chosen one, heaven does not operate according to human timing. While you were crying over delayed justice, God was arranging exposure in ways no human could manipulate. There are people who thought they escaped accountability simply because nobody confronted them publicly. But heaven records everything. Every false accusation is recorded. Every hidden betrayal is recorded. Every act of manipulation is recorded. Every secret conversation designed to damage your life is recorded. People may deceive human beings, but nobody deceives God. Some individuals smiled in your face while secretly competing with you spiritually. They pretended to celebrate your growth while privately, ultimately hoping you would fail. They acted supportive while carrying hidden jealousy in their hearts. Certain people became uncomfortable the moment they realized God's hand remained over your life despite every attack sent against you, because favor frustrates people who expected your downfall. There were times God protected you by removing people suddenly. At the time, it felt painful. You questioned why relationships ended abruptly. You questioned why certain individuals became distant without explanation. You questioned why environments you once loved suddenly felt heavy and uncomfortable. But heaven was separating you from spiritual danger. Not every person connected to your life was assigned to your destiny. Some were assigned to test your discernment. Some carried envy hidden behind compliments. Some carried darkness hidden behind charm. Some were emotionally attached to your energy while secretly resenting your light. And because God saw what your heart could not yet recognize, He intervened quietly. Many chosen ones mistake divine protection for abandonment. They cry over people God removed because they cannot yet see the danger connected to those relationships. But He, VEN, understands the long-term consequences of every connection. God sees future betrayals before they happen. He sees conversations before they occur. He sees intentions hidden beneath behavior. That is why some doors closed no matter how hard you tried to keep them open. Heaven was defending your future. Chosen one, there are spiritual attacks that happen specifically because of what you carry inside your spirit. Your discernment threatens manipulation. Your authenticity threatens fake environments. Your healing threatens people who benefited from your brokenness. Your growth threatens individuals who secretly wanted you dependent, insecure, and emotionally weak. This is why certain attacks became personal. The enemy wanted to exhaust you emotionally until you questioned your worth, wanted to isolate you until loneliness weakened your faith, wanted repeated disappointment to convince you that your prayers were pointless, wanted betrayal to harden your heart completely. But heaven refused to let darkness claim your identity. Even during seasons when you doubted yourself, God never doubted who you were becoming. Even during moments where confusion clouded your spirit, heaven still recognized your calling clearly. While others focused on your struggles, God focused on your transformation. The spiritual realm recognizes what earth often overlooks. Some people only saw your wounds, but heaven saw your resilience. Some only saw your tears, but heaven saw your endurance. Some only saw your silence, but heaven saw your wisdom. Some only saw your setbacks, but heaven saw your preparation. There are battles God fights quietly because public explanation is unnecessary. Sometimes heaven allows people to misunderstand you temporarily because your vindication will arrive through results, not arguments. God will often remain silent while preparing evidence that cannot be denied later. That is why certain individuals become uncomfortable watching your life continue moving forward despite everything they tried to do against you. They expected emotional destruction. They expected permanent failure. They expected you to collapse under pressure, but God sustained you. There were moments where your survival itself became proof of divine protection. Situations that should have broken your mind completely somehow strengthened your spirit instead. Betrayals that would have destroyed your heart somehow increased your discernment. Delays that should have weakened your faith somehow deepened your dependence on God. Because heaven was using every attack for transformation. Chosen one, your name carries weight in the spiritual realm because your destiny is connected to purpose greater than personal success alone. There are lives you are meant to impact. There are people assigned to receive healing through your testimony. There are environments meant to change because of your presence. And that is exactly why the warfare intensified around your life. Darkness attacks what threatens its control. But no attack against your destiny has gone unnoticed by heaven. God heard every cry you buried deep inside yourself, heard every prayer whispered through exhaustion, heard every painful question you asked during lonely nights, heard every moment you wondered whether justice would ever arrive. And while you waited emotionally, heaven continued moving spiritually on your behalf. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when God begins exposing what was hidden in darkness. For a long time, it may have seemed like lies were winning. It may have looked like people who betrayed you were succeeding while your own life felt trapped in confusion, delay, and emotional exhaustion. Some individuals spoke against your name confidently because they believed nobody would ever discover the truth. They thought manipulation would remain hidden forever. They thought the damage they caused would never return to them. But heaven does not allow deception to reign forever. Chosen one, there are seasons where God allows silence because exposure requires perfect timing. Human beings become impatient during these moments because pain demands immediate justice. Your heart wanted answers quickly. Your emotions wanted God to defend you publicly the moment betrayal happened. You wanted people to finally see your innocence and recognize the truth about those who hurt you. But heaven sees beyond temporary emotions. God understands that some truths become more powerful when revealed at the right time. Some masks must fall naturally. Some people must expose themselves through their own actions. Some lies become so heavy that eventually they collapse under the weight of truth. That is why certain individuals who once appeared untouchable suddenly experiencing confusion, instability, and exposure without explanation. Because God is dismantling false foundations. There were people who carefully created false narratives about you. They manipulated conversations to make themselves appear innocent while making you appear difficult, unstable, or problematic. Some twisted your reactions while ignoring the pain they caused you first. Others spread subtle lies designed to damage your reputation slowly over time. They smiled publicly while privately feeding negativity into the minds of others. But heaven was watching every detail. Chosen one, false accusations create a unique kind of pain because they attack your identity directly. It is painful enough to suffer betrayal, but it becomes even heavier when people believe lies about your character. You wanted desperately to explain yourself. You replayed situations in your mind, trying to understand how things became so distorted. Some nights you lay awake wondering if people would ever truly know your heart, and God saw every tear connected to that pain. The enemy attacks identity because identity is connected to purpose. Once a chosen one begins doubting themselves, confusion enters. The spirit, The enemy wanted you emotionally drained from constantly defending your name. Wanted you trapped in anxiety over how others perceived you. Wanted you obsessed with proving your innocence instead of focusing on your destiny. But God never intended for your future to depend on human approval. There are moments where heaven intentionally prevents you from defending yourself excessively because God wants truth revealed through divine exposure rather than emotional argument. Human beings can debate words endlessly, but they cannot argue against undeniable revelation when God decides it is time for hidden things to surface. And now many chosen ones are entering seasons where falsehoods can no longer remain protected. The same people who confidently judged you are beginning to question what they believed. Hidden motives are becoming visible. Manipulative patterns are becoming obvious. Individuals who once appeared trustworthy are exposing themselves through repeated behavior. The masks are slipping because maintaining deception becomes exhausting when God removes spiritual cover from darkness. Some people thought they buried your reputation permanently. They celebrated premature. Rely because they assumed your silence meant weakness. But silence was never weakness. Sometimes silence is wisdom. Sometimes silence is spiritual restraint. Sometimes God keeps a chosen one quiet because heaven is preparing a greater form of vindication. Chosen one, there are people secretly watching your life right now in confusion because they expected your destruction. They thought emotional attacks would break your spirit permanently. They thought betrayal would stop your growth. They thought rejection would destroy your confidence forever. But despite everything sent against you, God continued lifting you. Your survival became evidence that heaven remained over your life. Your peace became evidence that God was healing you internally. Your continued growth became evidence that attacks against your destiny were failing. And this deeply frustrates people who secretly wanted your downfall. Some individuals became angry because your life did not collapse the way they expected. They assumed pain would permanently silence your purpose. They believed rejection would cause you to abandon your calling. They expected emotional exhaustion to disconnect you from God completely. But the PPYSTOPED happened. The attack strengthened your discernment. The betrayal deepened your wisdom. The rejection increased your spiritual awareness. The loneliness strengthened your relationship with God. And now heaven is allowing truth to emerge gradually. Chosen one, exposure does not always happen dramatically. Sometimes exposure occurs quietly through patterns becoming impossible to ignore. People begin noticing inconsistencies. Hidden intentions slowly reveal themselves. Conversations that once manipulated others lose their power because truth carries spiritual weight that eventually rises to the surface naturally. There are individuals who spoke against you while secretly living double lives themselves. Individuals who criticized your flaws while hiding darkness in their own hearts. Individuals who portrayed themselves as victims while privately causing harm to others repeatedly. God sees hypocrisy clearly. Nothing hidden remains hidden forever when heaven decides it is time for revelation. That is why some people who attacked your name are now experiencing internal instability. Guilt creates spiritual pressure. Manipulation creates spiritual consequences. Deception eventually destroys peace from within. Even if people appear calm publicly, their spirits cannot escape the weight of truth forever. And while exposure unfolds around them, God is restoring clarity within you. For a long time, confusion clouded your emotions. You questioned yourself constantly because repeated attacks affected your confidence. You wondered whether you were too sensitive, too emotional, too trusting, or too difficult. You analyzed your own heart repeatedly, trying to understand why relationships kept collapsing around you. But heaven is removing false guilt from your spirit. Not every ending was your fault. Not every betrayal happened because you lacked value. Not every rejection reflected your worth. Some people lost access to you because they mishandled what God placed in their lives. Chosen one of the hardest lessons spiritually awakened individuals learn is that purity attracts both love and envy simultaneously. Your light inspires some people while exposing others. Your authenticity comforts healthy hearts while disturbing manipulative spirits. Your growth motivates some while triggering insecurity in others. And because of this, false accusations often become weapons, used against chosen ones. The enemy wanted your reputation damaged because reputation attacks create isolation. Isolation creates emotional exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion weakens confidence. But heaven never intended for lies to become your permanent reality. God is a defender of truth. The same God who watched every hidden betrayal also watched every moment you remained silent instead of seeking revenge. Watched every time you chose dignity over chaos. Watched every moment you resisted becoming bitter despite overwhelming pain. Watched every prayer you whispered asking heaven to heal your wounded spirit. And now heaven is shifting things. The false narratives are weakening. The masks are falling. The hidden motives are surfacing. The confusion is lifting. And people are beginning to recognize that there was far more to your story than what they were told. Chosen one, there comes a season after every battle where heaven begins restoring everything pain tried to steal from you. For so long, your life felt like constant survival. You became used to fighting emotional wars nobody else could see. You became familiar with disappointment, betrayal, rejection, and exhaustion. Someday, as you woke up already tired because your spirit had carried pressure for far too long, you learned how to hide pain behind forced smiles. You learned how to continue moving while secretly feeling broken inside. But God never intended for suffering to become your permanent identity. There is a difference between a season of testing and a lifetime of defeat. Many chosen ones remain trapped emotionally because they begin identifying themselves through their wounds instead of through God's promises. The enemy wanted your pain to define you permanently, wanted betrayal to shape your future decisions forever, wanted heartbreak to close your spirit completely, wanted disappointment to convince you that restoration was impossible. But heaven is announcing restoration over your life. The same God who watched you cry in isolation is now preparing to restore your strength publicly. The same God who saw hidden betrayals is now rebuilding areas of your life that were damaged through emotional warfare. What people broke through dishonesty, manipulation, and rejection, God is restoring through peace, wisdom, clarity, and favor. Chosen one, restoration is deeper than material blessings. Many people think restoration only means receiving opportunities, money, success, or visible achievements. But true restoration begins internally. God restores the mind before restoring the environment. He restores confidence before opening new doors. He restores identity before assigning greater responsibility. For a long time, your confidence was under attack. Repeated disappointment caused you to question your worth. Constant rejection created fear inside your spirit. Some betrayals damaged your ability to trust people fully. You became cautious with your heart because too many individuals mishandled your vulnerability. Some of you became emotionally distant, not because you lacked love, but because your soul became exhausted from being wounded repeatedly. And God understands every scar. He understands why you became quieter, understands why you struggle to trust compliments, understands why certain memories still trigger emotional pain inside your spirit. Heaven never ignored the damage created by betrayal. God saw every piece of your heart that cracked under pressure. But now He is healing what trauma tried to destroy. There is a restoration happening within your spirit that others around you may not fully understand yet. You are beginning to see yourself differently. The false narratives spoken over your life are losing power. The shame attached to past pain is breaking. The fear that once controlled your decisions is weakening. God is rebuilding your inner strength slowly, carefully, and intentionally. Chosen one, many people who hurt you expected permanent damage. They assumed your spirit would remain broken forever. They believed emotional exhaustion would stop your growth permanently. Some secretly thought you would never recover from the pain they caused. But heaven had already planned your recovery. This next season of your life carries a different spiritual atmosphere. You are no longer entering environments from a place of desperation. You are entering with wisdom, entering with discernment, entering with spiritual maturity created through suffering. The pain you survived sharpened your ability to recognize manipulation quickly. The betrayal you endured strengthened your connection to God. The isolation you experienced developed emotional independence within your spirit. And now your restoration is becoming visible. People who underestimate you will begin noticing changes they cannot explain. The peace resting over your spirit will confuse those who expected permanent bitterness. The confidence returning to your voice will surprise those who thought rejection destroyed your self-worth. The favor entering your life will frustrate individuals who secretly hoped your destiny would fail. Because God restores publicly what was wounded privately. Chosen one, there are blessings approaching your life that are connected directly to your endurance. Heaven watched you remain kind while carrying pain, watched you continue praying while battling disappointment, watched you survive emotional storms that should have broken weaker spirits completely. And God rewards faithfulness. Some opportunities are coming into your life because heaven trusts your heart after everything you survived. God saw how suffering changed you, saw how pain increased your compassion toward others, saw how betrayal deepened your discernment, saw how loneliness strengthened your dependence on Him instead of on human validation. Many chosen ones become spiritually powerful because suffering forces intimacy with God. During seasons where nobody understands, heaven became your refuge. During nights filled with emotional exhaustion, God remained near even when you struggled to feel His presence. While people abandoned you emotionally, heaven continued covering your life spiritually. And now the evidence of divine protection is beginning to appear clearly. There are doors opening now that once remained closed. There are opportunities appearing that once seemed impossible. There are environments shifting because God is repositioning your life intentionally. Some connections are entering your journey carrying genuine support, loyalty, and peace instead of manipulation and hidden agendas. Because restoration includes alignment. God is no longer allowing people access to your life who only came to drain your energy or damage your spirit. The discernment developing inside you is protecting your future. You no longer ignore red flags to keep temporary peace. You no longer beg for acceptance from people incapable of valuing your heart properly. You no longer shrink yourself to make insecure individuals comfortable around your light. Healing changed your standards. Chosen one of the greatest forms of restoration is rediscovery. Your own value after seasons of emotional warfare. The enemy spent years trying to convince you that you were difficult to love, easy to replace, or destined to remain rejected forever. Repeated pain created internal battles you rarely spoke about openly. But God is rewriting the way you see yourself. You are beginning to understand that your sensitivity was never weakness. Your kindness was never foolishness. Your loyalty was never stupidity. Your emotional depth was never a flaw. The problem was never your heart. The problem was placing your heart in environments where people lacked the maturity to honor it properly. And now heaven is separating you from everything that diminishes your spirit. This restoration season also carries justice. Not necessarily through revenge, but through undeniable elevation. People who tried to bury your confidence will witness your growth. People who questioned your value will watch God place favor over your life. People who underestimated your resilience will become confused by your continued transformation. Because when God restores a chosen one, the restoration becomes impossible to hide. Your voice carries more authority now because taught you wisdom. Your spirit carries more discernment now because betrayal taught you caution. Your prayers carry more power now because suffering taught you dependence on God. And your future carries greater favor because heaven preserved your destiny through every attack sent against your life. The same hands that wiped tears from your face during lonely nights are now preparing blessings your enemies never imagined you would receive.